how do we, in your view, what's the next step? We heard from Senator Manchin. You have urged President Biden to maybe go it alone with some executive action for some of the initiatives in Build Back Better. Can it be resurrected legislatively with Senator Manchin, in your view, at this point?
Joe, I believe it can. Senator Manchin did call me after he gave that interview on Fox News. And we talked about the fact that, the bill that he had, the framework that he had agreed to just a month before he had given his commitment to the president on that framework was a little bit different than the House bill that we passed. The House bill had a few more things in it that Senator Manchin had not agreed to. And typically in the legislative process, that's a discussion. You can take those things back out if you really can't get 50 votes. And I think in the end, our view is that we can do Build Back Better very close to the framework that Senator Manchin committed to the president on. So right now, we are in the midst of a big push on voting rights, as you know. And as soon as that is done, probably next week, our attention will turn back to Build Back Better. It has passed the House with all but one Democrat voting for it. Unfortunately, no Republicans, just like the American Rescue Plan, which was incredibly successful, popular, and helped our markets to continue and our economy to continue to grow. We might have to do this alone, unfortunately. But it will provide universal childcare, universal pre-K, investments in housing. It will drive economic recovery, continue to drive economic recovery, just as the American Rescue Plan did. So my hope is that we get it done in the next several weeks, certainly within the next month.
Congresswoman, the state of the state, I guess, or the state of the union, or the state of whatever you want to call in Congress right now, I'm just wondering whether... And we have people from both sides of the aisle on here. We're always friendly. We're always talking. We like to try to come to some consensus. That's what the American people want. But it just seems kind of poisoned right now in Washington, D.C. And I'll just reference something that the president said yesterday, that Americans opposed to the voting rights are domestic enemies, are essentially domestic enemies. In the past, he has said he would never question motive of his opponents, just their views. But I think we've gone away from where we just question the other side's opinions or policies, and we're actually questioning motive. Do you think we're there, and is there any hope that we can come back from that, in your view?
Well, I think that it is a really tough time, and I think a lot of it stems from the January 6th and the refusal of some of our colleagues to even say that that was an insurrection, that there were, that was the most violent attack on the United States Capitol since the War of 1812. I think that is where some of this stems from, the refusal to even admit that the president is the duly elected president of the United States. But that said, Joe, I can just tell you that there are a number of things that we continue to work with our colleagues on across the aisle, but sometimes, and voting rights is one, and unfortunately, Build Back Better, the American Rescue Plan, we kind of laughed and said, no Republican voted for that, but everybody went back and bragged about how much money it brought into their district. That will be the case with Build Back Better as well. And so I think we can't necessarily say that everything is hunky-dory on the Hill, but I do think that there are still many things happening, some of which can continue to be bipartisan, like our antitrust bills are very bipartisan. There are other places where we have a lot of commonality with our colleagues on the other side. But unfortunately, many of the big things right now are partisan only because of the filibuster and the requirement that you need 10 additional votes in the Senate. If you didn't have that additional requirement, you could have bipartisan bills passing with 2, 3, 4, 5 Republican votes, and everybody would say how great, this is a bipartisan bill. So I think that's sort of where we are. But I am a perpetual optimist in terms of how we get work done for the country that helps lower costs for Americans and creates opportunity for their lives.